Alright, can I have everyone's attention, please?
Doesn't matter.
Alright, so like I told you yesterday, we're going to have a presentation about China. I really think, and I know, like we said, that I told you that we kind of got mixed up and now we're doing Japan. Alright, but still, this is a great way for you to kind of embrace China, see what it's like today. Alright, and it really is a treat to be able to have someone like this come in and be able to give us a first-hand account of things. And so I think you're really going to like it. I think it's definitely going to be worthwhile. And I want you to just show your respect. This is okay. Sound good? I think you will enjoy it. All right.
All right. Good morning, Longmeadow.
Good morning.
All right. Everybody have a piece of paper and a pen or pencil. Grab that real quick. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have you guys on a piece of paper write down the 3 things that you think of immediately when I say a word. The word is China. Quickly, write it down. What do you think? What are you thinking right now?
One word?
One word. Three words. 3 things. When I say the word China, what do you think of? Everybody wrote a few things down? Good. Now we're going to go with the black sweatshirt, Longmeadow young lady over there. What is the number 1 thing you wrote down on your piece of paper? When you think of China, what do you think of? The city and the pollution in the city. Very good. Very good. Okay, yeah, a lot of pollution in China. That's not something we're going to talk about today, but that's a good thing to think about. Sometimes I've seen pictures of Beijing where you open up the window and you think, oh, the shade must be down. And then you try the shade and the shade's already up. And you say, oh my goodness, I can't see the building over there. All right, so yeah, it's not so good, some of the pollution, but very good to think about that. All right, so my name is Cliff. My wife here is Mingxing, and we're here to talk a little bit about China today. This is hello in Chinese. We're going to go through an alphabet, A through Z, to give you a little bit of an idea of what China is like today. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. A, what do you think A is? Anybody? A is amazing country. Sorry, it's a little cheesy, but... All right, so China, the way you have to think about China is the way you think about Europe. You say, what? Okay, I'll give you an idea. Now, people in Northern Europe, okay, people like me, Scandinavian descent, all right, very different than Italians, right? Okay, people in Italy, they eat noodles and pizza and meatballs and stuff, but up in Scandinavia, they don't do that, right? Same thing with Portugal and Spain. Different culture, different food, different language compared to Eastern Europe, right? Same thing in China. All right? Same thing in China. It's a massive country, just like Europe is a massive area. All right? And the different north is very different than the south. East is very different than the west. All right? So that's the thing you got to think of when you think of China. Yes, it's one country, but there are many, many, many different things. You can't just say a general idea of what China is like. All right? Now you say pollution, that's big up in the north, other places in China, but when you go down south, it's paradise. It's true, it's true. All right, B. What do you think B is? Anybody? B? All right, B is for Beijing. All right? Massive city. This is down in the south in Hong Kong. If you notice, we've got Beijing way up here in the north. There's also much more of China up in the north there. 19.6 million people in the city of Beijing. Okay, just to give you a comparison, Massachusetts, only 6.5 million. New England, okay, 14.4 million. All right, so it's just a massive amount of people in the city of Beijing. It's the capital. You're able to talk to a taxi driver. They like to only talk about politics. Right? So it's a lot of fun. All right, C is for characters. Now in the Chinese language, there is no alphabet. This is something that you can go home tonight and tell your mom and dad over your mac and cheese tonight. Mom, Dad, China, they have no alphabet. That's right. They have characters, thousands and thousands of characters. My wife probably knows what? 10,000? No, too many. And it's really interesting. If you ever have a chance to learn a little bit about Chinese characters, there's a rhyme and reason to it. They have meaning to it. You look at it, and you can kind of tell sometimes what they're all about and what the structure of them is. This is calligraphy, so it's a little bit more artsy. But we don't have anything like this in English. You know, beautiful English. I mean, I guess there's decorative English sometimes, calligraphy, but nothing quite like this. All right, D. D is for what? Dialects. Now, Chinese has a lot of different dialects. What is a dialect? It's a different way of speaking the same language, all right? The main language in China is Chinese or Mandarin. If you go down to the south, like we showed you Hong Kong, they speak a different dialect called Cantonese, all right? Very different than Mandarin. All right, my wife Mingxing speaks the Shanghainese dialect. She's originally from Shanghai. So, Mingxing, can you give us an example of the difference between Mandarin, Cantonese, and Shanghainese, for example?
Actually, there's thousands of dialects in China. So, the language I speak is Shanghai-hua. So, for example, how are you? The way I say it is 侬好吧? It's very soft. Mandarin, how do we say it? 你好吗? 你好吗?
That's how.
So it's already very different. And then Cantonese, I don't know whether I see some Asian faces there. Do your parents come from southern China?
I know how to say hello, but
How do you say that? 你好吗? Right?
So we have 你好吗, we have 侬好吧, that's Shanghainese, and then 你好. So it's
very
sounds similar, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
If you're from the south and you speak your dialect, and you go up to the north and they speak their dialect, you might not be able to communicate properly.
My grandparents, like the long time ago, the older generation people, if they are not educated, they cannot communicate with people from North China or South China. Cannot communicate.
Right. So, but the characters are all the same. So you can communicate by writing things down. Not as efficient as speaking, of course, but and it's really interesting too because the different dialects then have different ways of saying things. Like in Shanghainese, there might be different ways of talking about something that in other dialects they wouldn't have. So that's really quite an interesting thing. Now, if you're ever interested in hearing Chinese, Shanghainese, and English also, my wife and I have a website called MandMx. My middle name is Magnus, and we use her name Mingxing, that's MX. And we have Shanghainese podcasts. So if you're ever interested in listening, very short, very simple, you can come and check those out to learn a little bit more on how to shock your parents by saying bad words in Shanghainese. They'll never understand. A, B, C, D, E. E is for English. Now, I taught for 5 years in China. I taught English. I did not teach 300 million students, but there are today 300 million students in China, people in China who have studied or are studying English. Anybody know the population of America? Yeah, pretty much the same, right?
About 300 million.
Yeah. So the population of America, that's how many people are studying or have studied English in China, right? You guys are already a leg up because you guys are native speakers. They desperately want to speak like you. It's amazing, the desire. Now, a lot of the students have their own English names. They look in a dictionary, they find their own names. Like I had one student whose name was Einstein. Okay, and it kind of gives you an idea of what he wants to be in the future, right? Another girl, she was in the front row of my class. Her name was Destiny. So Destiny sat in the front row. But I'm sure your name's not Destiny. And then I had another student whose name was Talk, with an exclamation point. That's how he wrote it. I said, "Why is your name Talk?" And he said, "I chose the name Talk because it helps me to talk." Okay? Whatever your motivation is, that's fine as long as you talk in my class. And it's also really fun in China to teach about American culture. Here's a picture. I took the picture, but here's a picture of my students. We all played wiffle ball one day. Yeah. Taught them how to play baseball. And they all stunk really bad. You should have seen the boys. They're like, when they swung. I mean, throwing and that. I mean, they're all bookworms over there. So they study so hard. Not many sports.